Alright, so hi everyone, and welcome to my coin history charts series. I'll be starting by covering the half cent coin and just basically going through the rest of the US denominations as we progress through time. So, the half cent, first thing you need to know about it, it was the lowest denomination ever minted by the United States officially. Um, it had a runtime for of about 50 years, a little bit more than that, and throughout that run, it had five different official versions and designs, which I will be going through right now. So we'll start in 1793. The first design that they created was the Liberty Cap facing left design. Uh, Pretty obvious why. There's Liberty right there, the personification of Liberty, and she is indeed facing left. Now, the mintage for this version was 35,334, so pretty rare, especially for copies that survive until today. The motifs here were pretty obvious here, pretty typical stuff. Liberty, the Liberty cap, um, and on the reverse of the coin, you have the wreath. The wreath with the United States of America around it, and interestingly, they have a fraction down here at the bottom. Now, this is something that early US coins of low denominations used. I believe this and the cent used fractions for some time. Um, Now, the designer for this coin was Henry Voigt. We're not certain if he was the designer, we know he was the engraver, but some sources have him also as the designer. Now, this design was this design was only minted for 1 year, 1793, and then they moved on to the Liberty Cap facing right. Now, this design was minted from 1794 until 1797. The Liberty here, it's a different depiction, and but it keeps mostly the same motifs. It's just facing right. The mintage for this one was 350,520, so 10 times as much almost as the last one. Um, the motifs here stay pretty much the same, as I said. It's just Liberty, there's the cap, date, and she's facing to the right. The reverse also stays pretty much the same. The wreath is a little bit different, but it's just minor changes that they did. And in this picture, you can actually see the fraction a lot better. Um, and the designer for this one was Robert Scott. He would also end up designing the next version, which is the draped bust. The draped bust was minted from 1800 till 1808, with a mintage of 3.4 million across its entire run. So again, 10 times the last one, and 100 times the one before that. Um, the motifs here fairly similar. It's a different depiction of Liberty, but this time with differently styled hair, and she is wearing different clothing. Um, the designer, as I said earlier, was Robert Scott. Not much changes here. The reverse pretty much stays the same. Um, the wreath is just made a little bit thinner, less detail heavy, but that's about it. And next up, we have the classic head. The classic head was in production from 1809 till 1836, with approximately 3.5 million coins minted throughout this run. The motifs here, again, Liberty. You can see actually her headband says Liberty over here. And on the reverse is the wreath. Um, they actually removed the fraction in this iteration of the design, so we can see that they're switching away from having fractions on the coins instead, it only says half cent. The only actual numbers here are on the obverse, and they say 1828, the date of mintage. Uh, so the designer here was John Reich, and we move on to the next one. The next one was the braided. Next one, which ended up being the final one, was the braided hair Liberty, and you can easily tell why from her hairstyle. She also had the Liberty headband over here too. This design was minted from 1840 until 1857, with a much lower mintage of only 500,000, slightly above 500,000. Motifs here are very similar to the last one. She's got the headband, as I said. It's still Liberty. Stars surrounding her, and the obverse is very much the same or similar to the classic head version. The designer for this one was Christian Gorbrecht. And this ended up being the final version of the halfpenny that was produced by the mint. It was discontinued by the Coinage Act of February 21, 1857, due to lower purchasing ability. And the reason for that is copper's price, the metal that this coin was made of, was increasing, and it had less purchasing power also. So it didn't make sense economically to keep minting them, and it was an unpopular coin at the end of its life, which is why it was scrapped. Now, some interesting things over here are the mintage figures. You can see how it starts off with low mintages, then it really takes off in the period between 1803 and 1813. Here you see some of the highest mintages, and next it's not minted for about 10 years, gets minted again, but with significantly less numbers, and finally it's not minted for almost another 10 years, and then its last mintage run is very tiny in proportion to the other mintages. Now I'll go up and show some facts I decided to include about this coin, or this denomination rather. The production of half cents was started very early on by the Coinage Act of 1792. All of the half cents, all 5 designs, were all minted in the Philadelphia Mint. And as such, none of the coins show any mint marks. And this is a trend that goes on pretty far into the future. You'll see that with other coins, the ones minted at Philadelphia, not always, but often do not show the mint mark. They don't show the little P indicating which mint it was produced at. Additionally, this coin, all iterations of it were made of 100% copper, and this ended up playing a role in its discontinuation. As I said, copper got too expensive towards the end of its life cycle. Now, the coin's diameter was 23.5 millimeters, actually pretty large compared to some of the coins that we have today. So it was of a significant size here, which meant, again, the use of a lot of copper was required. And it had a thickness of 2 millimeters. When this was discontinued, it was discontinued by the Act of February 21, 1857, as I said. It was discontinued also along with the large cent. Now, if you don't know, the 1 cent coins in the United States, when they started out, they used to be pretty large, about the size of a quarter, or even slightly bigger, if I recall correctly. But they used up too much copper for the face value that they represented. So just like with the half cent, the 1 cent was also discontinued. The large 1 cent was also discontinued for this reason, because it was using up too much copper, and copper was getting expensive. Now, of course, we still do get other types of cent coins, but those are for a different video and a different chart. So yeah, this is the first video in my coin history chart series for US coins, and I hope you enjoyed it.